A lot of you guys have talked about being clueless about last week's news and kind of what the future holds going forward. How frustrating is that?
I need to that, by the way. Yeah.
And like, how frustrating is that? And then what's the biggest thing that you would like to know, or what's the biggest unanswered question to you?
Well, there's a lot of not answered questions. And it's tough when it's, as a week before a major. I mean, I'm trying not to think about it as much as possible. I think it gets to a point where you want to have faith in management, and I want to have faith that this is the best thing for all of us, but it's clear that that's not the consensus, right? I think the general feeling is that a lot of people feel a bit of betrayal from management. I understand why they had to keep it so secret. I understand we couldn't make it through a packed meeting with more than 10 minutes after people spilling the beans right away and some article about you guys already being out there. So I get it. I get the secrecy. It's not easy as a player that's been involved like many others to wake up one day and see this bombshell, right? So that's where we're all in a bit of a state of limbo because we don't know what's going on, and I don't think how much is finalized and how much they can talk about either, right? So it's a state of uncertainty that we don't love, but at the end of the day, I'm not a business expert. Some of those guys on the board and involved in this are, so I like to think they're going to make a better decision than I would, but I don't know. We'll see. There's still too many questions to be answered. I don't really care, to be fair. I really don't care at this point. There's just too much is going on. I think like everybody, we just want some answers and basically know what the future looks like, and that's about it. I just want to know how it's going to look like, and that's about it. I don't really, like I said, I've gotten to the point where I don't care that much.
Joined now by GolfChannel.com senior writer and our friend Rex Hager. I want to follow up on what Jon Rahm was talking about, betrayal. I heard that word a lot used by players from that meeting last week in Canada. And as one prominent player told me today, they feel like that there are a handful of folks, mainly on the board, that are making decisions for them, and they don't have a voice. I will say this, I have talked to a few players, although it's in a great minority, that they are being a little more optimistic about this potential partnership. But still, there's a majority of players that have lost confidence, maybe even trust in the leadership, specifically Jay Monahan, right?
Going back to that meeting on Tuesday, I think both you and I mean, this was no fault of our own, but I think we undersold how much the lack of trust really impacted it. You go back and talk to players, and that got brought up multiple times throughout the meeting, that whatever had transpired, the players clearly weren't happy with it. They weren't happy being left in the dark. And specifically, when you start looking at exactly why this happened, we just heard Colin Morikawa bring up the idea that I think that was the main question that kept coming up in that meeting. And from what I've been told, the commissioner did shed a little bit of light. He went back 2-3 years ago to the original conversations between the PGA Tour and the Public Investment Fund. And originally, they were offered a 5% stake in the Breakaway League and a team in the league. And now you look at where the league is at right now, and you certainly don't have a lot of details about this framework agreement, but you would have to think it's a better deal now than it would have been 2 or 3 years ago. And the commissioner also painted a very interesting financial picture of where the tour was in this meeting. He told players in that meeting that if you look at what the tour is doing right now, they have spent $100 million out of the reserves to, quote, stand up this year's PGA Tour schedule. There was $50 million in legal fees that they've already paid because of all the ongoing litigation, and another $50 million to underpin the DP World Tour. It was a difficult financial picture for the tour.
Okay, now that's what's happening internally with the PGA Tour. Externally, I'm understanding there are wheels in motion, specifically from the U.S. government, right?
Yeah, this goes to a couple letters. Last week, a congressman wrote the PGA Tour some concerns. They wanted some answers about what this agreement's actually going to look like. Just yesterday, a senator from Connecticut wrote a very similar letter to both the PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan and LIV Golf CEO Greg Norman. It turns out that Monahan actually sent a letter to Congress 2 days after last week's announcement. That would have been on Thursday, and essentially kind of laid out the picture of what we already know about the agreement, that the tour is going to maintain control of whatever this new entity, NewCo is what they're calling it, is going to be. And I think the interesting part that he brought up is in the letter, he points out that the tour had met with members of Congress multiple times and asked for their support in what they called an ongoing battle between both the PIF and LIV Golf, and they were, quote, left on its own.
couple things have to happen for this to become a reality. It's got to be approved by the PGA Tour Policy Board for sure. It's also got to be approved and signed off on from the Department of Justice in the United States. And also there's a European component as well because the DP World Tour is involved. So there are still obstacles in the way, and of course there is that undercurrent of what do the players feel about this proposed deal and the management that led us to this deal.